Hello guys, so in this video I'll be just playing a game of chess and meanwhile just explain some of the key concepts and some strategies or principles that you should keep in mind and follow them in order to win games. So we get an opponent pretty low rated. He's 1845 from India. So let's go. Okay, I go knight f3 all the time. So he goes d5. Let's go g3. Okay, he goes knight c6, and I'll just go d4 here, just controlling some of the central squares, e5 and c5, and then I'll just put the bishop to g2 square and prepare castling. So you guys got to keep in mind that you always should just castle as soon as possible. So okay, he goes bishop d6, which is slightly inaccurate. I mean, you're just looking at the pawn on g3 here. Uh, I guess probably bishop e7 would have been better. But okay, that is also fine. You're just developing your bishop and preparing castling, so it's fine. Okay, so he goes h6. So his idea is to stop bishop g5 so that I don't put it there and pressurize his knight. And now I'll just play knight c3, just develop my pieces. So so you got to remember f3 and c3 are the natural squares for the knight. I should always put them there. Not always. There are like cases you just put the knight, for example, on d7, d2 as well. But most of the times it is the case that you just put them on c3 and f3. Okay, he captures the pawn on c4 there. And it's not that I did not expect it. I mean, it's not that I'm just losing a pawn for nothing. We will get some compensation. So the compensation comes in the form of some other aspect of the game. So I just lost a pawn, uh, but I made his one of the central pawn move to a square that is useless, pretty much useless right now. So we get this huge center control after he just captures here. So the idea that I'm going to be using here is to immediately go e4. So now we get a pawn duo in the center. So we are just controlling all these squares. We're controlling f5, e5, d5, c5 at the cost of a pawn. And these are really the important squares in the opening. So okay, so now we'll just continue developing our pieces. So let's actually start off uh, with a move such as we can start with bishop f4. We can put the bishop there. Uh, that's a nice move. There is rook e1 as well. So I don't want to commit the bishop to f4 just yet, keeping in mind the possibility of, let's say, I don't know, knight h5 maybe. So for now, I'll just play rook e1. Uh, Putting the rook at the defense of the e4 pawn might become handy at some point. So now what do we do? Okay, key idea is going to be now to kind of get the pawn back, the pawn that we lost. We have got the center control. Now I will try to attack this pawn and try to get it back. The way that I'm going to do this is, first of all, so this is how I strategize winning the pawn back. I don't want to go queen e2 to attack it because attacking with the queen is never a good option because queen is like the most powerful piece. You should be used for major operations, not just to win a mere pawn. So I'm just gonna go h3. So how does h3 kind of threatens this pawn? Threatens this pawn in a strategical way. Okay, so I'm gonna go bishop to e3 so that I defend my d4 pawn like so many times. It is defended with the bishop, with the knight, with the queen. But my idea is going to be to play knight to d2 to attack the pawn on c4. But if I did not play h3, then he had this move knight g4, which he now doesn't. But still h3 was a nice move. I mean, decent move. You can always play it. But currently we still can't play knight d2 because the number of attackers on d4 are still two, the queen and the knight. And if I just put the knight on d2, it is just going to block my queen's defense on the d4 pawn. So it is played this way. What I'm going to do is first of all defend my d4 pawn even more. So I'm just going to put the knight on e2. So now it is defending it. And then I'll be just putting the knight on d2 to attack c4. Why am I just attacking c4? Just to win the pawn back? Yeah, that is a reason, but I'm forcing my opponent to commit to this b5 move. Yeah, which he does. Because now it just opens this diagonal up for the bishop. It is most of the time called the Catalan bishop in these kind of openings, because this opening resembles to Catalan a lot. Sometimes also called the King's Indian bishop. Whatever you want to call it, it's a beast. So I'll just try to kind of demonstrate the power of this bishop in this game here. So he just defends here. But now I will just be opening the queen side even more with a move such as b3. I want him to capture here, and then I can maybe take with the queen, or maybe even take with the pawn. The idea is to just open up some lines of attack on the queen side and just develop some pressure there. Force my opponent to just bring his pieces to the queen side to contest my pieces, and then my pieces are just in right position to switch back to the king side and just checkmate the king. So see how strategical it gets on this level. You have to be extremely careful with your strategy. Okay, he goes bishop uh, b4, attacks my rook, but I mean, I can just move my rook back, and there is no point worrying about this move. Because, okay, I waste a tempo moving the rook to e1 and then back to f1, but so does he. He wastes a tempo moving his bishop to, I mean, d6 and then goes back to e7, and now he brings us back to e5. Sorry, b5, and now, okay, so now is the time to decide whether we want to take with the pawn or with the queen. With the queen, I think is a better move, because just moves the queen to a nice square here, forces the bishop to move once again. So you guys gotta remember this. If your opponent is moving the same piece again and again, he's just not doing anything. He's just moving his. It's like you have an army and you're just promoting one person to the next level, and then promoting the same guy again and again, and you do not care about the rest of your army. So not a good idea. All right. So now what I'm gonna do is kind of involve the rooks into the game. So what I'm going to do is first of all start with, let's say, rook a to c1, putting the rook on the c file, attacks the knight. So let's see. I guess he's going to go bishop to b7. Yeah, bishop b7. But now my idea is to play a4, because if he takes, then he will lose the bishop. So that way I can just further blast open the queen side. Plus I gotta play a little bit faster because I'm losing a lot of time and there is no increment in this game, so I might just lose in the end because of time trouble. Okay, so he moves the knight back, defends this pawn, but it's still fine. I mean, I don't have to react to this. What I can try to do now, okay, his idea is probably just to play c5, but after some preparation. So I must attack this pawn immediately. I can do that by playing bishop to, let's say, f4, but again, it's like moving the same piece again. If I want to move, if I really want to move some piece again and again, it must be the rook, because I just want to build massive pressure on the c file, and that should, I mean, be the right plan. So if you guys now kind of see this position, all my pieces are harmoniously placed. I mean, all of them are doing something, controlling some square. Well, black is too passive. Black is a pawn up, but he's too passive. This bishop is not doing anything. It's just sitting at the edge of the board, staring at this diagonal. That is not so important. This bishop is pretty good watching down this diagonal, I gotta say. Look at this knight and this knight. I mean, they are the worst pieces on the board for now. So, okay, he just tries to improve his bishop there, attacks this pawn, which is efficiently defended. I'll just kind of reinforce some some forces, some troops on the C file here. So right now he just takes, but yeah, there's no reason to be worried about this. We can just take here, and now the real fun begins. Okay, so he's attacking here. Okay, so I have a plan in mind. Okay, let's actually go queen b4, and then I'll just put the queen on d2 so that it starts eyeing the king side. I have to attack him, otherwise I lose the game because I really have less pawns on the board. Okay, he wants to trade queens, which I really don't want right now. Okay, so let's see how this progresses. So he's just trying to put massive pressure on the d4 pawn. Okay, I'm just going to go e5, attack the queen. Let's see where the queen moves. Okay, so the queen moves back. Now I'm just thinking about this sacrifice. I gotta do this real quick. So if I just take on h6, then he's gonna take, then I can take with the queen. Then I have some moves that might be good there, but I don't see a concrete follow-up. I can move this knight in, bring it here. Well, you know what? I kind of have to go for this. I don't have any other option because I'm already a pawn down, which I just recover, but at the cost of the entire bishop. The real issue is the d4 pawn, which is a backward pawn and can be lost. And I don't want all the pieces to just trade off here because he has this. He has Mbappe on the a file that will run down the board, become new queen. Okay, so I've just sacrificed my bishop to open up his king. And one good thing is that he cannot take here right now because I can just take with this knight, and he cannot take with the bishop immediately because of rook takes on c7. So that's the benefit of doubling the rooks on a half open file, that you just put eternal pressure on the opponent's position. Okay, the idea now that I'm going to use is to play the knight to f4 to h5 and play a checkmate on g7. Let's see. If it were a classical game, I might have still done that. I mean, but after a lot of calculation, here I just did not calculate anything. It's just on the base of my intuition that it looks fine, so I just played it. So let's see how it operates. Also, there is interesting knight g5, immediately threatening a checkmate, forcing the knight to capture. And then I can just take with a check, force his king to move away, capture that bishop, and then bring the bishop back to kind of attack the king side. Okay, he just takes here. I can take, allow him to take, then I take here. Or maybe I can just go with this idea here right now because that threatens checkmate. He can just take my knight with a check, then I take here, then he has the annoying f6 move, defending the queen, defending the knight that way. So I'm not fond of that idea. I'll just take here. So he takes with the bishop. I just take the c7 pawn. So we are just falling low on time here as well, so gotta keep that in mind as well. Yeah, so just take here. Yeah, so the key idea again in this position is to, we can even take this bishop if he does not defend it. He can defend the bishop by playing queen to b5, but knight g5 looks so tempting. After the knight takes, we can take with a check, and at least we have a draw. I mean, if we just, for example, fail to attack him, he can just move. Oh, that's an interesting move. That's a really interesting move, because I can't now play this because he can just always take here. But I can just take the bishop. After the queen takes, only then knight g5. Yeah, that looks nasty. So let's take the bishop, sacrifice a rook again. So that's my second piece sacrifice, technically called exchange sacrifice of the game. And I've already sacrificed a bishop and a pawn in the opening. Yeah, so I have really good tactics here, but the time is really low. Time situation really, I mean, takes the fun out of the game sometimes. Yeah, so he cannot take the rook because we have knight g5 threatening to checkmate him. If he takes the knight, then we just take the queen. Then the real problem that is left is the time. Will we be able to convert the game in the time that we have? Okay, so he has to sack the queen, take, and now we just take here, check. Okay, and now I can just try to attack this bishop. Should I take a draw here? I mean, this is winning for white, absolutely winning for white, but what has he done here? He just moves the bishop away and allows me to checkmate him. That's such an anticlimactic anticlimactic, I guess it is, anticlimax of the game. So didn't want this to happen, but anyways, let's have a game review. Yeah, I'm expecting a lot of mistakes because it was a wild game. A slow positional game is more accurate, more preferable, but sometimes I just can't resist the approach of going all out and attack my opponent. 69% accuracy, and my opponent has 55. So many blunders, so many mistakes, but look at this. We get a brilliant move here in this position, which is rook takes b7. Absolutely brilliant. Uh, I'm proud of this move. Yeah, I found it in very little time. So I had 1 minute and 16 seconds, and I played this in 20 seconds. So yeah, uh, I'm not proud of myself for the accuracy of the game. Pretty bad, but I've been having good accuracies with the game, like 90 plus, but only if I just play sensibly and safely. Here, I just wanted to go all out and managed to somehow win the game. But yeah, it was a good game overall. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll be coming up with more videos. And yeah, it's a bye for now.